Shalom, goodness of souls, but giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kal double honor to the Apostle of Great Most High, and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name with whom the world ignorantly calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. His son's true name is Yahweh Shai, and when we pray Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, but in harmony that and Sham, meaning names Yahweh and the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, as I saw this image in the back of this post here, right? And as the different elders have been saying, these Edomites, they're being hella emboldened right now. Okay, that spirit of Edomite pride, right, is basically being pushed to a lot right now, right? Slovakia. Let's just grab this real quick. This is Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Right, it's one of the things that a lot of the elders have mentioned on this topic. Right, the fact that the Lord has had this Trump character come in and really push this back to Edomite pride energy, which a lot of the elders have been like, it's gonna be Satan. His voice been good all day. Right, but basically, so this idea that basically going back into that pride just before the Lord yanks him right down, right? But it is just funny seeing these Edomites starting to try and get their voice back, because it's just going to make their their fall even more beautiful to watch. Okay, so even let's start on this, right? It has been for the last couple 100 years, it's been great to be so-called Edomite, right? Because we can jump into that, right? This is Job 9:24. The earth was given into your hand, right? And just like the different heathens that have had power over the earth, you were basically proven to be an unworthy ruler, right? And actually you've been proven to be the most unworthy ruler, right? Scriptures refer to this devil as the basest of men, right? This is Daniel 4:17, right? It says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and sitteth up over it the basest of men. So the Lord, has given everyone a chance, and the Lord right now has given this Edomite, right, the basest of men, the chance, and he has proven that he is the basest of men, right? He's destroyed, everything. He destroyed the minds of the people, right? Destroyed the the earth, right? And even just for that, there's a judgment. All right, we can grab that real quick as well, right? This is Revelation 11:18. It says, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Right, and that's what this devil's been doing. He's been destroying the earth. He's been defiling the earth, right, with the power that's been bestowed onto him, right? Which let's actually read. This is Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Right. So basically, being a little facetious, like if it ain't this Edomite, it's just like right, if it ain't this Edomite that's got power over the earth, then who is it? Okay, who is it? Right. So he's the wicked, and he's basically done nothing but ruin the earth. Right. So, but let's grab this now. Right? This is Psalm 73rd chapter. Right. I'm gonna read into it, right? Because once again, it has been good, right? But notice we're speaking past tense now. Right? Yeah, you got given power. Yes, you took riches. You you conquered with the sword. That's one of the things that they've been a lot of these Edomites have been what's the word? Have been professing and being proud about, right? That you conquered the earth with the sword and everything like that. Right, you've been the hammer of the earth. But guess what? Because of all of these things that you right now you're proud about, right? You're gonna be brought low, right? America's gonna be completely destroyed. This is Jeremiah 50:23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Right. Once again, he wants to speak about all of the conquest and all of the conquering that they've done. First to get the land of America, right, but then to keep the other nations in subjection, right? Because once again, for someone to make that statement, right, that's a very proud statement in the sense that you're saying, if basically you're saying whoever conquers gets to keep it, right? You're basically saying that, look, man, no one can conquer us. Because if there was someone who could conquer you, trust me, you ain't making that statement. Okay? You ain't making that statement, right? But that's that pride, right? Which is beautiful. Once again, it's beautiful to see this pride because it's just like, yo, everyone's just waiting on the sidelines, right? Waiting, right, for America to basically be taken out of power. Right, so it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Right, so, this nation that once, ruled the world, right? These people that once ruled the world, right? In fact, it goes into that in terms of this Edomite in general, right? In Isaiah, right? It's going to come to a point where no one is basically going to come to a point, Slakia, right, where it's brought low. Okay. Let's see where I can start. This is Isaiah 14 from 4. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. Say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. Right? Hey, once again, it was good to be Edomite. Right? Especially America in its heyday. Jeez. When these Edomites are hearing "Make America great again," right? What was it the two children? The little German Shepherd, the white picket fence, right? A car or two, right? Neighborhood is, every lawn is mowed, all of that stuff, right? That was a great time for the Edomite, right? But guess what? It's gonna be taken down. Right, it says, Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. Right, because that's one of the things that these Edomites don't want to talk about. In fact, they're annoyed that we're talking about it. Right, whether it be the Israelites or whether it just be people in general. Right, the fact that Esau's nakedness and his the wickedness that he has been doing has basically been pushed out to the world for everyone to see. It's pushed out into the forefront. Esau hates that, right? And he's now starting to bite, right? It's Habakkuk 2:16. Thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory, right? So all of the different things that Esau was proud of for the last couple of years, he's kind of had to just, enjoy that, in secret. Because each time, he tried to speak about something, people would come up and be like, yo, but you got that through blood, or you got that through wickedness. What does the scripture say even, right? Because this is the point. That's kind of why, I'm joking around with this because, it has been good being an Edomite, right? But guess what? That time of it being good is coming to an end because that is going to be the single worst thing you can be in the kingdom of Israel, right? For the 1,000 years that the Edomites are going to be around, right? You can even read that in the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary where it speaks about how the Edomites is the only neighbor of Israel that is not promised any form of salvation, basically. Right, it's peak for the Edomites. Right, I forgot what I was gonna get. But yeah, that's the point, right? So it says, let me and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. So, he wants to speak about how he's got everything in this, that, and the other, right? Not realizing that one, it was given to him. The Lord reminded me, brother, about Shimon Ashai when I wanted, right? But how did he get all of these things? right? Esau got all of these things by way of wickedness, by way of evil, right? This is Sirach 10. And I'll read from 7, right? It says, pride is hateful before the Most High and man, and by both doth one commit iniquity, right? So it's beautiful seeing this Edomite get this proud, right? Because, all he's doing is pissing off the Most High even more, right? And it's going to make the fall of this Edomite even more beautiful to watch, right? It's the point that I wanted because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, right? So, yeah, once again, it was good, right? But how did you get all of that, right? You got all of it by unrighteous dealings. You look at your banking system as an example. Because this is the funniest thing, because they're talking all of this, with all of this pride, but guess what? Right, your elites haven't allowed you to partake in any of this glory, right? Your elites have just been the ones that have just been enjoying a life whilst y'all have been suffering, right? Yeah, you may have a car, yeah, you may have a nice house, right? But you ain't on the level of the elites, right? In fact, the elites look down on you. Yeah, so they're posting pictures like this. It's just a regular Joe. Right? The elites look down on individuals like this, man. What they call them, the goyim or whatever. But that's how they got the things that they have, right? Unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. But because of all of those things, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, right? So we read that, right? So let's go to this, right? Isaiah 14:6 says, "He who smote the people in wrath with continual strokes." So that's how he has been able to get what he has and been able to keep what he has. Okay, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. And why I say none hindereth? Because ultimately every nation has a bone to pick with you, right? Right now, the Lord has basically, put a covering cast on the nation, so people, in fact, let's grab that word, transformed angel of light, right? But the Lord is slowly pulling that back through this, through this truth, right? And even, through the different systems within the world, right? People are now starting to be like, no, F this Edomite. 2 Corinthians 11:14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Right, so basically, people, are trusting and looking up to this Edomite, but we know what he is, right? So I like to, bring out Hosea 4:6, right? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge in regards to this, because if you don't know who this man is, then you gonna trust him. You gonna think he's an angel of light, right? But we understand this, that his wrath hath not been altogether wiped away, right? So Sirach 12:10. I'll read into it. Right, it says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. Right, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast swiped a looking glass, and shalt know that his rust and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away." Right, so one, never trust him. Right, but but you need to know that he's your enemy first and foremost. Right, which through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai and understanding these scriptures, we understand that this devil is exactly this. When you had a whole load of Jake, right, that when the apostles, the teachers before them, when they would encounter, right, the men of the Lord, right, you had a whole load of Jake that would fan their hand, right, be like, "Oh no, I've got good Edomite friends," they wouldn't say Edomite, but "I got good white friends," or whatever, what have you, right? But now, as time goes on, as he starts showing his horns more and more, right, they gonna be like, "Yo, only if I'd listen," right? But by that point, it's gonna be too late, right? Esau's gonna show his horns, man. He's gonna show you, right, why he's referred to as the sword of the Lord, right? Let's jump to that real quick, right? It says Psalms 17:13, because really, once again, he has no power. Right, he has no power apart from what has been given unto him, right? That's why you read Isaiah the 47th chapter. It speaks about stand now with thine enchantments, because these different demons have tricked Esau into thinking, right, that he has he has some kind of power and some kind of avenues out of to basically circumvent the power of Yahweh Shem Shai, right? Without understanding that ultimately, no, there is no way, right? In fact, let's grab that as well real quick, right? This is Sirach 18 and is it 13? 18, 13? That's not 18 and 3. Right, 18 and 3 says, who governeth the world with the palm of his hand, and all things obey his will. Right, so all things, right, even Esau himself, right, is is basically controlled by Yahweh Shem Shai. Right, it says, for he is the king of all, by his power dividing holy things among them from profane. Right. And then back to the point that I wanted, Psalm 17:13, arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, right? Because the Lord is using this Edomite, right, to bring pain and punishment upon the children of Israel, right? See if we've got any precepts there. That's not what I wanted. But that's the point. That's the point, right? In fact, I'm going to save Isaiah 14 and 7 for a little later if the Spirit allows, right? But let's grab this. It's Psalm 73, right, from 3. It says, for I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked, right? So, hey, like this. Been watching the, Damon Wayans with Shannon Sharp, right? This is decent, decent podcasts and everything. One thing that I'll definitely say I've always found interesting about the the different weigh-ins is the fact that they're the only Jakes I know, right, and the J men that I know that that I can think of, right, that really push that whole honoring your parents, right, because usually Jake is always just like, oh, moms or whatever, but they will really push, respect on your, on your parents, right? It's a shame that they're, a bunch of, what can I say that YouTube won't take down, but let's just say these are the same guys that did White Chicks, right? And they see nothing wrong with it. Right, but yeah. So one of the things that there was Damon Wayans spoke on was this idea that ultimately, right, when you get into these certain places, when you get into that certain ilk, right, around a certain pay bracket, you stop seeing Jake, right. So this is the life that these Edomites have lived, right. They've lived that life of prosperity. Okay, it says, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. Right, and when you hear stories, right, because every now and then you meet someone who will report back, right? You'll meet someone who is in these circles with these Edomites, and then they'll report back, right, and be like, yo, you certain of the things that they say, or they'll let slip out, right? Even these Edomites are, kind of these so-called posh Edomites, they look down on these people, right? So how much more so the elites, right? So it says, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men, right? Therefore pride compassed them about as a chain, and violence covereth them as a garment, right? So they're proud as hell, and they're not plagued like other men, which is why they don't understand the plight of other men, right? Which is why it's also once again going to be very beautiful to watch them fall, right? It's going to be so beautiful to watch these Edomites fall, right? And to see that actually life is better without you, right? This is Isaiah 14:7. It says, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing, right? This is after Esau. Look, when Esau's not in power anymore, right? Earth is going to be peaceful, right? It says Romans 8. I think what I want is like 25 or 35, I forget. 35? No. 19, slack it, right? This is Romans 8:19, for the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. Right? So creation is waiting, right? Creation is waiting for the Israelites to be in power, right? Because right now the earth is groaning, it's in pain, right? Nothing is right. Right, Sirach 10 and 4 is the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. And the only profitable ruler of this earth is the Israelite in his right state of mind, right? And this man, everything can't wait for Esau to be out of power, right? And when he's out of power, right, he's gonna be at the bottom of the bottom, right? The Lord is gonna revert him back into that base state, right? Let's go jump now to Job the 30th chapter. I'll read it from the top. It says, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock, right? It says to mock, disdain to have set with the dogs of my derision to mock, right? Because he's Edomite, and it also says I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock, because these Edomites, man, you see how they get, right? Sexual deviancy is hardwired into them. It says, yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness, in former time desolate and waste. Right? And on Netflix I was watching something, man. It's a funny ass documentary, man. There's some of these types of Edomites in there, man. It's called Netflix Gold and Greed, right? The Hunt for Fenn's Treasure, right? And you got them proper hillbilly redneck type Edomites, man, and whoo, it was hilarious, just watching them, man. These types of Edomites, right? So for want and famine, they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness, in former time desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, right? To dwell in the clefts of the valleys, in the caves of the rocks, and in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed. Right, like I said, man, they weren't, the ones in this documentary weren't doing that, but it was. If you just want a quick chuckle, man, it was hilarious. Okay, so there were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. Right, and the Edomite is going to return to that. Lord is going to push him back to that, and even just seeing that is going to be like, yo, the Most High is powerful. Because when you look at this Edomite right now, he's revered. Okay, through his witchcraft, but he's revered nonetheless. Right. The point that I wanted is, the world is still going to be better off without you. Okay. Despite all of the, the witchcraft that you're using, the world is going to be better off without you. Right. So, yeah, your Lord's going to bring you back to this state, and, when all is said and done, you going to be done. This is Job 1 from 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh hath spoken it. Right, so the Edomites gonna be done away with, man. And at that point, hey, we gonna see how happy, how good it is to be white, right? So you enjoy it for now, right? Because the days of enjoyment are long. Coming to a close, right? As Apostle Paul says, the time of Jacob's trouble, which we're entering, was the time of Esau's trouble, right? So, enjoy your high horse, because you're going to be flicked off of it. Right? You're going to be flicked off of it, all your bones broken. So enjoy your high horse, man, right? So as always, Lord's with us edifying. Till next time we say, Shalom.